Taking a look at the Makita 2012 NB planer. Now this is their 12-inch planer, and this one I've always heard good things about, and so now that I've had a chance to test several other full-size and portable planers on the market, I want to just compare this and see how this one performs overall. Now Makita did send this out for me to review, but let me just give you a little sound check on it. So to my ear, it's a lot lower frequency. It doesn't have that high-pitched whine like some of the other common planers on the market. I know the DeWalt 735 was particularly that way. It just kind of screams with the universal motor, and this one just altogether sounds better built and a little lower frequency to it, so I don't mind that. Let's take a look at what comes with this planer and maybe what doesn't, and then we'll check out the planing performance, how it does on that flat surface, and if there's any snipe to speak of. So this one does give you the in-feed and out-feed tables, and those fold all the way up, at least in the front, and it kind of stays there. So I like the design on those, and they are adjustable. So if you ever get snipe on really any planer, you can actually raise the far in-feed or far out-feed side just slightly, like a 1/16 to maybe an 1/8 of an inch, and that'll really help to reduce or even fully eliminate snipe. And it has that outfeed table as well, but like most portable planers, that won't fold up very high in a normal planing position, at least if you have the optional dust shroud attached. Yes, that's correct. This does not come with the dust shroud, so if you just buy the planer in the box, it'll basically just spew dust chips everywhere. You have to spend just a few bucks. I think mine was maybe $22 for the dust shroud. It looks metal in some of the advertising pictures, but it's actually plastic, and I think it does a fine job, but I just consider a dust shroud absolutely essential, so don't forget to order the dust shroud when you pick up this planer. And of course, I'll have links to this planer as well as some of Makita's accessories down in the description. So as far as attaching that dust shroud, it's really easy. There's just 2 slots on a little metal plate there, and thumb screws keep everything in check. So that's a pretty good system. I like the way that that works, and the dust collection actually on this is really quite effective. The one oddity on that, I guess, is the size of it. I'm used to either a 2.5 or a 4-inch port, and this one, outside diameter where it tapers down, is 2 7/8, so basically it's a 3-inch dust port. So I didn't have any of that in the shop, so I had to kind of make use of this dust extraction hose from my laser engraver, and that seemed to go on okay. There's also this little onboard tool kit, which is kind of handy. So when it comes time for swapping out the blades, there's some tools in there to help you along. And I always like when a tool is kind of integrated into the machine, so you'll have it right when you need it. Another thing I noticed right away about this planer is it has some heft to it, and that's due in part to the nice sturdy metal top on that. A lot of the smaller portable planers now actually have a plastic top, and it's just not very confidence inspiring. So if it means adding a little more weight, but it feels nice and sturdy, I'm definitely okay with that. There's a really basic material removal gauge. So that little gauge will just jump up a little bit to let you know that yes, you are going to be taking off some material with that pass. But you know, this would be a great machine to add a Wixie to because there's really no depth stops or anything. So either you're the type of person that likes using a caliper when you get close to the finished dimension, or just add a Wixie digital gauge and you'll be all set. And the amount of material you can remove in one pass really just depends on the width of your board. So for a typical 6-inch board, you might be able to approach 1/8 of an inch per pass, whereas a wider board, you'd be limited to about a 32nd of an inch. And I think that's real typical for these smaller planers. But otherwise, there's just a simple on-off switch, and this is actually a lockout key that you press and slide to the side. That'll prevent the machine from coming on accidentally. Click that back in, and then there's just a manual scale up front. And luckily, this one runs on a regular 120-volt outlet, and it's rated for about 15 amps. Watch that power indicator come on as we plug it in, and let's plane some boards. So there's a little bit of dust that gets kicked out of the front of the machine, but overall not too bad. And actually on the outfeed side, it stays almost spotless. And the surface quality it produces is really pretty smooth, unlike segmented or spiral heads that sometimes produce these longitudinal lines. I call them slug trails, and they're not too deep. They sand out pretty easily, but you know, on this one with straight knives, I'm not seeing that, so it looks pretty good. And one standout feature on this planer is the height adjustment crank. I love the way that adjusts with absolutely no slop, and you know what? On this model, there's no cutter head lock to deal with, so I'm a fan of that. The mechanism is just snug enough that it's not going to shift on you, and you can actually flip the knob over for storage as well. That's kind of clever. Even this piece of highly figured white oak didn't show any tear out, and of course this species is really prone to that. And as far as snipe, there was just a tiny bit on the leading edge that would be very easy to sand out, and absolutely no snipe on the trailing edge. So if you're looking to pick up your first planer, or you're just in the market for something new, this Makita 2012 NB is a good choice. It's not flashy, it doesn't have a lot of flair, but if you don't like all the bells and whistles and you just want something to quietly go to work for you and not give you too much maintenance fuss and produce really flat, smooth results, I think this one is a good one to go with. And I'll have links down in the description if you want to check it out and maybe do some research on your own.